Welcome to Root Research, where we decode science in plain language. Today we're diving into a powerful idea about why good people sometimes do nothing, even when someone right next to them desperately needs help. This story comes from work written by Darley and Bibb Latané, together with collaborators, and it quietly changed how the world understands human behavior in emergencies. Let's start. What if I told you the problem isn't that people don't care, but that they care too much about everyone else? Picture this for a second. You're walking home. Late afternoon. Normal day. Suddenly, someone collapses on the sidewalk a few meters away. People slow down. Some stop. A few glance at each other, seconds pass. No one moves. Now here's the uncomfortable question. Would you step in immediately, or would you wait to see what others do first? Pause. Most of us like to believe we'd act instantly. We imagine ourselves as the hero. But Darley and Latané noticed something disturbing. The more people are around, the less likely any one person is to help. That idea alone flips our intuition upside down. You'd think more people means more help. More hands, more brains, more courage. But reality, it often works the opposite way. And once you understand why, you'll never see crowds the same way again. How a real tragedy forced scientists to ask an uncomfortable question. Before this experiment ever happened, something shook the public. A young woman was attacked and killed in New York City. What horrified people wasn't just the crime itself, but what came after. Reports suggested dozens of people heard or saw parts of the attack, and no one called the police. Commentators rushed to explain it. Words like moral decay, urban coldness, alienation. People don't care anymore, filled newspapers and sermons. Darley and Latané weren't convinced. They didn't buy the idea that dozens of ordinary people suddenly lost their humanity. Instead, they asked a sharper question. What if the situation itself shuts people down, even when they care deeply? That question became the seed of this study. Why emergencies create mental traffic jams in your brain? Here's something the authors noticed early. Emergencies don't just demand action. They create conflict inside your head. On one side, you feel a strong pull to help. That voice says, do something. This matters. On the other side, another voice whispers, what if I'm wrong? What if someone else is already helping? What if I embarrass myself? What if I make things worse? Your brain starts juggling risks instead of acting. Now here's the key insight Darley and Latané uncovered. When you're alone, that conflict resolves fast. When you're not alone, it stretches, and stretches, and stretches. And sometimes, while you're thinking, time runs out. How the experiment secretly recreated a real emergency. To test this idea, the researchers didn't just ask people what they would do. They put them into a situation that felt real. College students arrived at a lab. They were placed alone in small rooms, each with headphones and a microphone. They were told they'd be part of a group discussion about college life. The setup felt safe, normal, almost boring. But here's the twist. During the discussion, one participant, actually a recording, began describing how he sometimes suffered seizures. Later, while speaking again, his voice started to break. He stuttered. He gasped. He begged for help. Then silence. What the students didn't know was that this was staged. What they did know was that something sounded very wrong. And crucially, they were told different things about how many other people were listening. Why the number of listeners changed everything. Some students believed they were the only one hearing this. Others believed one other person was also listening. Others believed 4 other people were listening. Nothing else changed. same voice, same emergency, same amount of danger, just a different belief about how many people were present. And that single difference reshaped behavior in a dramatic way. What happened when people thought they were alone? When students believed they were the only witness, something almost automatic kicked in. Most of them acted fast. They left their room. They went looking for the experimenter. They reported the emergency. Not calmly, not casually, nervously, shaking hands. Racing heart. This is important. They weren't cool heroes. They were stressed, uncertain, scared. And they still acted. Responsibility had nowhere else to go. If help was coming, it had to come from them. And so it did. What changed when others were around? Now comes the uncomfortable part. When students believed one other person was listening, responses slowed down. When they believed 4 others were listening, delays grew longer, and many never acted at all. Not because they didn't care, not because they thought it was fake, but because responsibility quietly slipped away. Someone else must be doing something. Someone else probably knows what to do. Someone else will step in any second now. That belief, even without proof, was enough to freeze action. This effect became known as diffusion of responsibility. The shocking numbers that changed psychology. Let's talk outcomes in simple terms. When students believed they were alone, most helped quickly. When they believed 4 others were present, less than 1 in 3 helped at all. Speed mattered too. Help didn't just come less often, it came later. And in real emergencies, seconds aren't neutral. Seconds are life or death. The authors even showed that victims were more likely to get help from 1 witness than from 5 during the early moments of crisis. That sounds backwards, but the data said otherwise. Why personality didn't matter as much as we think. Here's another surprise. The researchers measured personality traits, responsibility, attitudes, background, gender. None of it predicted who helped. Men didn't help faster than women. People trained in medicine didn't trigger faster responses just by being present. The situation mattered more than the person. That's a humbling thought. It means the line between helping and not helping runs through context, not character. Why blaming bad people is comforting, but wrong Darley and Latané pointed out something subtle and powerful. When we hear about bystanders who didn't help, we like to believe they're different from us. Colder, less moral, broken somehow. That belief protects our self-image. But their findings suggest something scarier and more honest. Under the right conditions, most of us could hesitate too. Not because we don't care, but because the situation quietly gives us permission to wait. A real-world example you've probably lived through. Think about a crowded school hallway. Someone slips and hits the floor hard. Everyone looks, no one moves. Why? Because everyone sees everyone else. Now imagine the same thing happening in an empty hallway with just you there. You wouldn't pause, you'd move. The difference isn't empathy, it's responsibility concentration. How this research explains modern problems we still face. This study wasn't just about seizures in labs. It explains why people don't intervene in bullying, why crowds ignore medical emergencies, why online harassment explodes while everyone watches, why emergency calls sometimes come late from busy places. The bigger the group, the thinner responsibility spreads, and technology has turned the whole world into one big crowd. A hypothetical moment that could change an outcome. Imagine a subway platform. A teenager collapses. People surround him. Phones come out. No one calls for help. Now imagine one person steps forward and says loudly, "You in the blue jacket, call emergency services now." Suddenly, responsibility snaps into focus. One person, one task, one action. That's how diffusion breaks. This research shows us that clarity saves lives. Why knowing this gives you power? Darley and Latané didn't just diagnose a problem, they handed us a tool. If you know crowds dilute responsibility, you can fight it. You can name someone directly, take visible action, speak up early. Understanding the trap helps you step out of it. What this study ultimately teaches us about ourselves. Here's the core outcome repeated plainly. People don't fail to help because they don't care. They fail because responsibility gets lost in the crowd. And that means something hopeful. It means change the situation, and behavior changes too. Awareness isn't just knowledge, and it's intervention. Thank you to the scientists who dared to question easy explanations and replace them with evidence. If you like what we do here at Root Research, subscribe, share this story, and drop a comment. Because understanding human behavior is the first step toward changing it.